Look, the other big start to the year has been the starting yesterday. I think we're 9 hours through 80 hours of submissions, in-person submissions to the Justice Select Committee on the Treaty Principles Bill. A bill put forward by Act which would redefine or clearly define the principles of the treaty in relation to governance and legislation and lead in the fullness of time to a referendum. And this bill has no chance, I still want to reiterate, has no chance of being passed because Mr. Peters will not support it and the National Party will not support it past the first reading. So it is largely smoke and mirrors. It is, however, the focus of political coverage at the start of the year. And our mainstream media have decided that they don't like the bill and everyone who does is a racist. And they are using it as an opportunity to attack a government they don't like. That's our mainstream media. Well, there was some controversy yesterday as the hearings began, and a claim from Hobson's Pledge. Hobson's Pledge, a group that takes, what would one say, a certain view of the Treaty of Waitangi. And Hobson's Pledge claimed they were denied the ability to make an in-person submission to the Justice Select Committee. But they did appear yesterday and they did make a submission. I want to find out how that happened. I also want to thank them for having the people who made a submission had a platform bumper sticker on the back of one of their computers, so we got a bit of airtime last night. Joining us now to discuss what went on is Don Brash from Hobson's Pledge, of course, former leader of the National Party and former governor of the Reserve Bank as well. Don, Happy New Year to you. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Sean. Happy New Year to you too.
All right. Look, are you on speakerphone or are you just on your handset?
On my handset.
Oh,
yep.
Okay, that's a bit better. That's a bit clearer.
Okay.
Don, first, you say you were denied the ability to make an in-person submission. What happened?
Yeah. Well, the Select Committee sent out invitations to some people to say, do you want to be heard? If so, reply by X. And we did reply well before X, but then we discovered to our astonishment that neither yesterday nor on Thursday morning, when there's another opportunity for submitters to be heard, we were simply not on the list. And we were stunned by that because we had met the deadline and among other things, we're among the largest organizations focused on these issues, not to appear at all, given the number of people who did get a chance to speak. We were stunned. The chairman of the committee said at one point that we had not replied by the deadline. He later retracted that statement and said, I'm sorry, that was a mistake. They did reply by the deadline, but because lots of people had applied before them, they didn't get on the list for either yesterday or Thursday morning. So there was, to some extent, a confusion because, as I say, the committee said we did not reply by the deadline. We did do that, and that was later acknowledged by the chairman of the committee. But we did it, and we were able to appear yesterday because Democracy Action, which is another group which had asked to be heard yesterday, had a slot granted to them, and they agreed to swap with us. So that was good of them because it gave us a chance to speak on the day when the media was very much focused on the issue.
Do you feel that it was a genuine mistake by the committee, or do you suspect some skullduggery went on?
No. I think the cock-up theory of history is always more plausible than the conspiracy theory. I don't think the chairman of the committee, anyway, was in any way implicated in trying to shut us down. The initial impression we had was perhaps that was true, but I'm satisfied that was not the case. All
right. What did you make of the submissions process? Do you think Hobson's Pledge got a fair hearing?
Well, obviously, 10 minutes is what we got, as everyone else got. 10 minutes is a very, very short amount of time, as you well know, to expound on something which is so important. And I would have thought that given the number of supporters who belong to Hobson's Pledge, we would have had more than the allocated 10 minutes that any individual got. But be that as it may, the committee clearly has a challenge because tens of thousands of people were submitted on the thing, and many people, I'm not quite sure how many, of course, asked to be heard, and they clearly can't all be heard. So, okay, I won't quibble with that, but 10 minutes is a very short time indeed to talk about arguably the most important single issue on the parliamentary platform this year.
Yeah. The truth is, though, Don, this is not going to get past the first reading. Winston Peters shows no signs of changing his position, and the Prime Minister just does not want to know about this. He is running a million miles away from anything that is controversial, so it is all rather pyrrhic, the fact that you got heard yesterday anyway, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I agree with David Seymour's comment that controversial ideas sometimes take a while to get off the ground. Having said that, I'm mystified by Winston Peters' attitude. I mean, Winston Peters has a number of views with which I disagree, but on the issue of racial equality, he has been consistently good. Number 3 on his list is Casey Costello, who, of course, was co-spokesperson with me and with Hobson's Pledge for years. So the New Zealand First Party, by and large, stands for equal citizenship. They have on their agenda, their deal with the National Party, a pledge to remove from umpteen different bills, umpteen different acts, not bills, acts of Parliament, references to principles of the treaty. So they're basically on the same side as David Seymour.
Yeah, but okay, but here is the difference, as best I can understand, Don. David Seymour accepts there are principles and he wants to define them. Winston says there are no principles, and that's where they fall apart.
But they're both playing with words, aren't they? Because I mean, what David Seymour's bill says is that the government's got the right to govern. Well, Winston Peters would agree with that. It says all New Zealanders have equal rights. Principle 3. Winston Peters would agree with that. Whether you call it a principle or a I don't know, fundamental truth or whatever, it doesn't matter. Both Winston Peters and David Seymour agree with 1 and 3. 2 is more problematic because it is defined in a curious kind of way. And this debate, we ourselves are uneasy about the way Principle 2 has been put down. But the need to sort out the New Zealand Constitution is clearly very important indeed, because you've got people, many of whom submitted yesterday, saying New Zealand is not one country. It is 2 countries with 2 sovereigns. Now that has to be crap. And that was never part of the Treaty of Waitangi in any language. And I've just finished reading Only One Sun in the Sky by Ewan McQueen. And he goes through in detail the speeches made both at Waitangi and at Kohimarama and so on. And Maori chiefs understood they were surrendering to a higher authority, call it sovereignty or whatever you like. I mean, Sir Hugh Kaforau, himself Maori, of course, and an expert in the Maori language, translated the treaty from Maori to English for the Waitangi Tribunal in the 1980s. And unambiguously, he said, the treaty said, we surrender sovereignty. Now, people can argue about that as long as they like, but that was clearly the content of the treaty when it was signed in 1840. And for people to say now, no, we're 2 sovereigns, it's just untenable.